Hello, AI Seeking the Truth. I've got another encounter for you today. I hope you enjoy it. It's a little earlier today than what I normally record, but I needed to get a video out to you guys, and I have these all sitting back, so I thought, well, we might as well get it out, right? So, this is what he says. Before I get into the recollection and retelling of this story, I think it would be best to describe myself. I've spent my whole life in the mountains of northeast Pennsylvania. I've spent considerable time in the wilds, hunting, fishing, and camping. I've been lucky to have almost all the wildlife this state has to offer, but I do believe there are many things out there that we as people don't know. It was late summer in 2015. My ex-wife, who shall remain nameless, grew up in the streets of Trenton, New Jersey. She had never had the opportunity to camp, and my family wanted to give her a taste of our rural lifestyle by arranging a camping trip in my parents' backyard for a weekend. It was exactly roughing it, as we would be saying in the pop-up camper, only 25 yards from my parents. My parents had a small cottage. A majority of the weekend occurred in a manner that was delightful, but unimportant to the story. There was plenty of fishing, hiking, swimming, and campfires, toasted marshmallows included. For myself, my family, my ex-wife, and our two lab mixes. Their names are Yoshi and Max. We had already spent 2 nights in the camper, and this was to be the last night when my father, a salt-of-the-earth kind of guy, cautioned us on the incoming rainstorm. We chuckled, and we went to bed excited to sleep under a thunderstorm due to the sound of the rain makes on the roof of the camper. We said our good nights, and we put the dogs to bed shortly before turning in for the night ourselves. My ex-wife and I talked briefly about how nice the weekend was before falling asleep quickly. We had swum all day and were totally exhausted. I awoke somewhere around midnight. It was tough to say in the pitch black. The camper was softly rocking and the distant thunder rumbled. I closed my eyes and went back to sleep, only to be awakened a short while after by a crack of thunder that shook the camper. My wife and I both bolted upright, and the dogs began to bark as the rain came down like bullets from the sky. We had just started to discuss our next steps when we heard it. Bare feet running down the flagstone path from the cottage to the camper. We both assumed it was my parents coming to wake us and tell us to seek shelter in the house. "We're coming, Papa Bear," my ex-wife yelled out as the dogs began to growl. Yoshi and Lab Akita in the prime was 125 pounds. He ducked under the table and hid with the more Scottish Max. At this time something punched the camper door with enough force to rock the little pop-up. We both screamed as the camper leaned to one side like something was pulling it down, and a loud bang came from the roof as it jumped up. It was pitch black out, which was odd. The yard light didn't even turn on, which was odd also, because it was on motion sensors. The dogs began to bark furiously, and my ex-wife began to sob. We were both terrified. In the darkness, I whispered, "I'll send the dogs first, then me, then you. Run to the house for Dad, and don't stop for anything." She continued to cry, but I could barely see her nod. I flung the door open and yelled, "Yoshi, Max, go," to which they took off running. I hopped out, unarmed, but remembered the hatchet my father used for the campfire. It was only a few feet away, and I scooped it up as my wife ran screaming. The lights flooded the downpour from the porch, and I looked up in horror. There was nothing. I was greeted with only rain and wind as my father was dragged in his undies, I may add, to the back porch by my mother. Whatever it was had vanished. The camper itself was surrounded by a small patch of trees that had low limbs. I would have heard or seen the drop. Nothing. There was nothing there. I went inside and told my dad and my mom what had happened. My dad doesn't believe in the supernatural or paranormal, but he did believe the night that my mom grabbed him and jerked him back to the porch as they all heard us yelling to keep him out of the rain. I was told numerous times about large raccoons and the admonished for running away from tree rodents, but was promised an investigation in the morning. Needless to say, only the dogs slept that night. At first we thought, when we went outside, that it was the raccoons, and I tried to rock it myself, and I'm 6'1", 230 pounds. I could not even rock the camper. It was solid. But then whenever I looked at the side of the camper by the window to where we slept, there was handprints. with 7-inch fingers. There was muddy, barefooted prints on our steps. Our steps are 17 inches long, where we backed the camper in. The heel of the foot, almost up to the toes, was on there, but the foot was even longer than that. Do you believe we had a Sasquatch encounter? I'd say it was very possible that you all did. Probably came up from all the cooking and stuff you were all done. It probably smelt the food, and you were next to the woods. So I think when we do that and we cook, we put, that scent into the air, and they see that as a food source. What do you guys think? Let me know. Thank you for watching this channel, guys, and if you don't mind, share it out. And as long as it keeps growing, we'll keep putting them out. Thank you for watching and listening.